1. And we're live.
All
Welcome
right.
to another episode of Falcon Central Radio. This week we're going over the quarterbacks, I believe,
Yeah.
as what is deemed by my good friend Matt Miller as the worst quarterback situation in the NFL after their starter.
Probably a fair assessment.
He says, they got a top 10 starter, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, of course. But I'm kind of with him on that. They're either unproven or awful. You got
Yeah. It's one of those things where if you're looking at what we've seen out of guys like Dominique Davis and Sean Winfrey, judging by what they did last preseason, I'm leaning towards awful. They just simply weren't good last summer, and one of the big things I'm going to be looking for is if they make any improvement and how much improvement they make.
I think the bigger question is if they're going to make an improvement.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, they can make some improvement, but it might not be enough because I just, I dread the scenario where Matt Ryan, Will Svitek steps on Matt Ryan's ankle again, and he misses more than a play. He misses a quarter or two or a game, and we have to basically play Dominique Davis, who basically hasn't shown he can complete a 12-yard pass in the NFL yet. So
yeah. Dominic Davis makes me, I don't think he deserves to be on the roster. I don't think we've seen anything that says, "Oh, hey, Dominic Davis, you're the next guy who's going to be the great roster savior as a backup."
Yeah.
Do I think Jeff Matthews has potential? Yeah. Do I think Sean Renfrey has potential? Yeah. No on Dom Davis.
Well, I think the issue there is all these guys, I think, can play in the NFL. We've seen flashes from Davis, his first summer here, that he can play in the NFL. I don't know if we've seen flashes yet from Renfrey, but we saw at Duke that he can play in the NFL, and I think Matthews has shown at Cornell that he can play in the NFL. Problem is, we basically have three really, really young quarterbacks that probably, in an ideal situation, would all be number threes on some team and basically hold a clipboard for 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years before they were ever asked to play a single snap of football. And basically what the Falcons are in a situation where all 3 of these guys could develop into good players, but that may be like 3 years from now. What happens if we need them now, What happens if they need to play right away? Then the Falcons are in a position where they could be screwed royally.
Could be screwed? Could be screwed? I could be dating Jenna Jameson right now. No. They are screwed. They are done. They are absolutely if Matt Ryan goes down, Atlanta is a 2, maybe 1 win team.
Yeah, I wish I could disagree with you, Scott, but I think 1-15 would be good job, Dominic Davis. You won 1 game in the NFL.
No, I think it'd be 1-15 because Matt Ryan's going to last at least 1 game.
Okay.
I mean, the offensive line's a lot better than it was last year. There's no question there. And they can start rolling protections towards Sam Baker again, which is how he does well. But, boy.
The great irony in the NFL is all these years where Matt Ryan has played behind a terrible offensive line. He has stayed healthy. And the way the NFL usually works is whatever you think should happen doesn't happen. So now that we've made the improvements of the offensive line, now like this year is the one year that I'm really worried that he might actually get hurt just because anytime you think we've got that problem, Matt Ryan's going to be playing behind a good offensive line. It's all good. No, reality comes and slaps you in the face and basically says, no, you're screwed. Matt Ryan's going to land wrong on his shoulder one time and he's going to pop out. He's going to miss 8 games or something like that. So I'm praying that doesn't happen.
I hope Matt Ryan doesn't have any. Oof. No. I hope Matt Ryan's perfectly fine. I hope whenever he does get hit, because I mean it's gonna happen. He's gonna get hit. No offensive line is perfect, and people don't seem to understand that.
Wally, shut up! Holiday.
And that is my family. Sorry guys. Yeah, that's my little brother. You just heard him screaming at my dog because she doesn't like him for whatever reason, so she barks at him. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the distraction, but no, I hope Matt Ryan doesn't go down. Matt Ryan is easily a top 10 quarterback in the league. There's no question there. You finally have a good offensive line, or what looks like a good offensive line. Or we know they could be a sieve again, but hopefully it's a good offensive line. And he gets sacked like 10 times as opposed to 40 times. And hopefully he gets hit like 15, 20 times as opposed to like 50 times. So instead of taking 90 clobberings this year, let's hope he takes 30. Which is fair.
Yeah.
And the way he releases the ball, it's a lot more likely than you would expect that he would take 30 as opposed to 90.
Yeah.
I mean, Dom Davis had 12 snaps last year. They actually let him attempt 9 passes. I don't know why.
I think we were down 30 points when he was playing. So I think
that's right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's the situation I hope Atlanta has this year, only the reverse, and that's why they put in any of those backups, because none of those guys, not a single one of those guys, deserves to be starting at any point, period. Just ever. Just don't ever start them.
I think the quarterback situation is one of the positions that we can mark with a red pen or whatever you want to call it, and say if guys do not perform this summer, there's a very good chance that the Falcons will sign a veteran player at the end of training camp. They did it 2 years ago with Luke McCown. Thankfully, they didn't have to rely on the lesser McCown brother to play in any games. But, you look at around the landscape, and I think if Davis, Renfrey, or Matthews don't absolutely light it up this summer, and I really do think they kind of have to play like balls to the wall great in preseason in order to earn my trust or any level of trust I have for them, you might see the Falcons go out and sign somebody like a David Carr, or, David Garrard wants to get his old legs out of the wheelchair and, hopefully, be the stopgap. I'll take an old busted David Carr over Dominique Davis or anybody pretty much.
I would take a Matt Flynn over Dominique Davis. As awful as that sounds, I would take Oof. Let's go over the list. I would take T.J. Yates over Dominic Davis. That's my boy, though. I would gladly take Brian Hoyer over Dominic Davis, or Kyle Orton, or Josh Freeman. Where's he at? I'd bring him in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only like 22 years old.
Power ranking the backup quarterbacks, the number 2 quarterbacks in the league. It's a toss-up between Dominique Davis and Jordan Palmer, who owns that 32 spot. That's about it. Like, pretty much, that's 31, 32, that's Dominique Davis. Power ranking. And if you were putting number 3 quarterbacks in there, there's probably at least 15, 20 number 3s that you would probably rank over Dominique Davis. So you're looking at a situation where he's probably, like, at best, the 90th best quarterback in the NFL right now.
I feel like you could sign Tim Tebow and have a better setup.
I'd have to think about that, yeah. The fact that I have to think about it.
The fact that you have to think about Tim Tebow being a legitimately better option than any of those 3 guys tells you just how bad those 3 guys are. Just to give them a thought, Tebow sucks, but he's still probably better than those 3.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't they just trade up for Aaron Murray in the 5th? Why couldn't that Marcus Rule pick have been Aaron Murray? Would that not have just completely settled that argument? The quarterback situation is not perfect, but at least Aaron Murray showed he can run an offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize he went 4 or 5 picks ahead of the Falcons there, but still. Would you rather have Ricardo Allen or Aaron Murray?
I like Ricardo Allen, but I would have to go with Aaron Murray.
Would you rather trade up?
Either.
I mean, I'm not a huge Aaron Murray fan either, but hell, I would have rather traded up for Zach Mettenberger than taking Marcus Rule.
I'm with you there.
Let's take the exact same guy we already have in Akeem Dent that we're about to cut. Why didn't they just take Taj Boyd? Just stay where they were. Take Taj Boyd.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
If you can't tell, Marcus Rule is my least favorite pick of the entire draft. I think he could be cut as a rookie because he is Akeem Dent. That is who he is. Yawan Smallwood, at least on the field at times, looks more like Curtis Lofton than Akeem Dent.
That's fair.
He's still a 2-down linebacker. No one's saying that he isn't. It's just he's better than Dent. He's more instinctual than Dent. And then Tyler Starr is better than Prince Shembo. By far.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of the Sproul pick. I'm not a big fan of Shembo. That's not easy.
The Shembo pick didn't make sense at the time. The more you watch film on him, the less it makes sense.
That was my reaction. I was like, I saw a little bit of him, and I was like, okay, maybe I just need to watch more. Maybe I'll get it. And then the more I watch him, it's just like, I don't get this. This makes no sense. Why is he a 4th-round pick?
It's like if I was 6'1" and played football. Motor, heart, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But no actual physical talent.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about Shembo to me is, I look at what he did at the Combine, he put up pretty good numbers, and I'm like, where was this guy on the field for Notre Dame the last 2 seasons? Where's this guy with a 38-inch vertical and a 10-foot broad jump and a 7-2 3-cone, and like this guy has not been playing for Notre Dame's defense the last couple of years. Because if he was, he'd stand out because it's not like Notre Dame is like, pouring with athletes.
Yeah, I mean, none of that showed up on film. Not a single bit of it showed up on film. I mean, he just looks slow on film.
Yeah.
Yawin Smallwood, on the other hand, timed super slow. But if he had posted Shenbo's times, you would have been like, that's the guy. That's the guy I saw on film. That's the quickness. That's everything that I saw on film. And then Tyler Starr, he timed better than he showed on film. Like, don't get me wrong, he showed probably a 6'6", 5'3" cone on film, but I didn't picture him as anything more than a 5'0", flat 40 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys just don't have long speed. There's nothing bad about that. They just don't have it. Like Kyle Van Noy. He only ran a 4.71, which for him, and for his position, like I thought he was going to be a weak side linebacker long term. But he still only ran like a 4.71. Nothing wrong with that. It's just some guys aren't long speed kind of guys. Who's the other one? There's another guy that ran like a 4.9. Coney Ely.
Yeah.
I realize I'm talking about a rival at this point, but no one pictured him as a 4.6, 4.5 kind of guy. He's a 4.9 guy all day, every day. But he's very quick, and he's very...
Yeah.
He's very quick, and he's got good short area.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, I don't see it with Shenbo. He's not good. Like, he can play special teams. He can be a rotational guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's his ceiling.
I agree. That to me is, if he's playing extended reps for the Falcons on defense, that means something is horribly gone wrong with the Falcons defense. That's what I'll say. I hope he comes in and the player that he looked like he was supposed to be on paper at the combine, and the player I didn't see at Notre Dame in the last 2 years, and he comes in and lights it up this preseason, and I'm shutting my mouth, and I'm just like, I thought he was going to suck. He's not sucking, but if I'm making bets, I'm betting on that not happening. So.
Well, when you look at each two deep, right? You've got weak outside linebacker. Well, you've got basically three different depth charts, or two different depth charts you got to look at. We just got a question. Why is Starr getting so much hype? I hate his tape. He's not a good football player. I disagree, sir. I disagree completely. Starr is an excellent football player who needs refinement in his technique. Every time he has an issue on tape, it's a technical issue. It's not because he's not strong enough. It's not because he's not quick enough. It's because he played football at friggin' South Dakota, and his coaches suck. That's the issue with his tape. Now he's got a good coach, a scheme that fits his talent. Watch him shine. Paul Warlow had the same kind of issue at Delaware. Anytime he had a bad play, it was a technical issue. It wasn't a heart thing. It wasn't a motor thing. It wasn't, a relentlessness thing. It was just poor technique. You can learn technique. It's easy to learn technique. If the people who are teaching you know what the hell they're teaching you. But Starr is an excellent player.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of Starr as you are, Scott, but that's not the first time that happened. It certainly won't be the last time that you really love a player. And I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good. But I what do you guys say? He's horrible. He's not a good. No, okay, come on. No, let's be a little. foolish. He's a good football player. Whether or not he becomes a big time player for the Falcons, I think that's open to debate. But I think he certainly can play in the NFL. I think he could possibly be a quality starter in the NFL. But we'll see how he gets there. But I think he's certainly a good football player. I certainly think if between him and Shimbo, if one of them is deserving of being a fourth round pick, I would have said Starr as opposed to Shimbo. Like, Starr is a guy that I think could get drafted every year. Probably on day 3, but you put him in next year's draft class, he'll be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. Put him in the year after that, he'll be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. I put stock in that sort of thing in terms of how would this guy grade out in the previous year's draft class or the next year's draft class. There's a lot of guys that are like, you look at a guy like Brady Ewing, in my opinion. Had he been in the previous year's fullback class, he probably wouldn't have been drafted. You had a guy like Henry Hynoski not get drafted in that draft class. And to me, Henry Hynoski was call it Pitt bias, but he was a much better football player at Pitt than I thought Ewing was at Wisconsin.
Hynoski also timed better, a lot better for his size at the combine, which is why I was shocked he never got drafted, because for his size, he's really quick. Really quick. Chris Cooley, I realize, white fullback, H-back kind of guy that pops into a lot of people's head, but, similar kind of quickness out of Hynoski.
Yeah.
Now, does he have Cooley's hands? No. Does he have Cooley's receiving ability? Not even close, but he's a better blocker. Bob Christian, same kind of guy as... Actually, that's probably a better comparison for Hynoski. He can run with the ball and he can block. But ask him to catch anything outside of like a small screen, you're probably going to fail with Hynoski. And you're a Pitt guy. You've seen the same things I have.
The thing I liked about Hynoski is Pitt moved him around their offense. And, he's not the world's greatest receiver, but he could line up at H-back. He could put his hand in dirt, play tight end, and be a pretty decent blocker at those positions. And if you can do that, if you can block at fullback, you can block. He was blocking for Ray Graham and Dion Lewis. And basically it was part of that Pitt factory of running backs that came out. And the big reason why they were so successful is because they had Hynoski blocking for them. And you can say a certain thing about Ewing in Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin's rushing success was really on their offensive line more so than Brady Ewing. But it's one of those things that the point I was making about Starr versus Ewing is I think if you put Ewing in different draft classes, he doesn't stand out as much. I think Starr is a rock solid guy that holds up in multiple draft classes. And so I think that is proof that he's a quality football player as opposed to Shimbo or saying that he's not a good football player.
It's just, yeah, yeah. Let's move on.
All right.
The way that I kind of see the two depth charts right now, the 4-3 versus the 3-4, I think in the 4-3, bar 2, Warlow and Spoon kind of have those jobs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like just where it sits right now. Warlow in the middle, Bartu on the strong side, Spoon on the weak side. Say Sproul and... Actually, I think Sproul kind of has the backup job on the weak side there. Like, he's probably the only guy. Maybe Bartu if Bierman ends up winning the strong side job, like the full-time strong side job. Smallwood and Dent are in the middle. Then you've got, Shembo and Bierman and Starr kind of at 4-3 strong side linebacker, but not really. Just kind of thrown in there, but not really. I don't really see him fitting. Then in the 3-4, I'd say you got Bierman and Massaquoi on the ends, or on the outside spots.
Mm-hmm.
You got Spoon and Warlow in the middle. Bartu and Starr rotating in on the outside spots for pass rush. Mopanga out there. Shembo out there. Inside, you got Sproul, Smallwood, and Dent competing for three guys competing for 2 jobs, basically. And then Spoon and Warlow as the starters there as well. I just don't see any way that Smallwood or Sproul end up starting this year. And I think Dent has proven that he's not a starter in the NFL at this point. I think for a third-round pick, he's busted. Because your third-round pick needs to start more than just 1 season. Which happens. Like Mike Johnson, he was a bust.
Well, to back up my man Mike Johnson a little bit, he's not starting because he always gets hurt every time he's about to win the starting job.
Not disagreeing.
It's not good.
I'm not disagreeing there. I'm not saying that he's a bust because of a talent issue.
Yeah.
I'm saying he is a bust.
Yeah, I would agree with
Black and white bust.
Yeah. That's fair.
Where Lamar Holmes, he started 1 year, looked mediocre towards the end of the season, started looking okay, but at this point, looked awful. He's shown he has potential, though.
Yeah.
Not everybody has potential.
I agree there.
What
you were saying about the depth chart, though, I would probably make one change. I'd probably say Bartu might be moved inside, even in the 3-4.
Well, I don't think Bartu's going to compete inside in the 4-3. At the very least, I don't think he's inside in the 4-3 because I think he's so good on the strong side, you have to keep him there. Because you got Warlow and Bartu, who Warlow in the middle of a 4-3 does well because he can flow around. Now you got guys in front of him who can actually knock people's heads around. They can actually take on double teams because you don't have Paray, Jerry, and Travian Robertson taking up legitimate snaps.
Yeah.
When your starters are Paul Soliai and Rashid Hageman, and your backups on the inside when you're in 4-3 sets are Tyson Jackson and Jonathan Babineau and Corey Peters. That's your backups on 4-3 sets. I mean, come on. Those used to be your starters. Now they're your backups in 4-3 sets. Hell, you might even throw Tyson Jackson out there on the left end in a 5-tech just cuz.
Well,
yeah.
The way I'm thinking of it is, even though I don't have the highest opinion of Shembo, I do think the Falcons seem to think that he's going to do something this year. So when I'm looking at the 3-4 guys, and I'm thinking they're going to kick Bartu inside, because right now on the roster, other than Spoon, you only have 3 guys that really can play the inside: Warlow, Bartu, and Spoon. And Warlow's going to be starting at the mic in the 3-4. And as you say, I don't think Sproul is the guy that you want to be filling in for Spoon in the event that he goes down with an injury. So I think what's going to end up happening is, because we have guys like Bierman, because we have guys like Massaquoi, Starr, Shembo, Mopanga, those guys can all fill those outside spots. And I think Bartu just winds up basically becoming a weak side inside linebacker. I think the positive thing about Bartu is they'll play him all over the place. And so he'll be the guy that we'll be talking about being cross-trained. And he's playing inside, he's playing outside. But push comes to shove, if he's going to play this year, particularly when we go to the 3-4, I think it's going to be as an inside guy, just because I don't think you want Sproul backing up Spoon in the event. Certainly, I don't think you want Dent, and Smallwood aren't really that type of real linebacker. So I think Bartu goes out.
I'll agree with you there. I'll agree with you there. Okay, so even still, Bartu's making the roster.
I would agree with that.
I'd say it's like a 99% chance he's making the roster. He may not be starting, like, period, but he'll make the roster. He'll show some value. He'll play. Spoon and Warlow, I think, are the two guys they keep on the field almost 1,000 snaps. Like, almost every snap. I think those are the two guys they pick to keep.
Probably.
And then Bierman and Massaquoi and, OC even, Star, all those guys, they rotate them. They churn them. Let's see. We've got another question. Another two questions. How many players will have a year one impact from this year's draft class for the Falcons?
If we're defining impact like Desmond Trufant impact, one, Jake Matthews. If we're defining impact like Joplin Bartu impact, then yeah, I'll throw Hagan in. Maybe Southward finds an impact as a sub-package guy. Freeman's going to be a role player, third down back. Sure. 4 guys, maybe one of those linebackers steps up and becomes a really good special teams guy and maybe gets some.
Tyler Star gets 10 sacks, He's got it in him. It's just when is it going to happen?
Okay.
I bet if Tyler Star becomes the next Patrick Kearney, will anybody be pissed off?
No.
Angry that it happened? No, they'll just be like, well, I was wrong, and thank God I was, because that dude's good. Now, Tyler Star is a hell of a player, and he was one at South Dakota, but not just like Paul Warlow. How did teams miss him? Why did he go in the 7th round? Why did Warlow go undrafted? Why did Joplin Bartu go undrafted? Both those guys are excellent football players, and they went undrafted. Sometimes it's not why they went undrafted or that they went undrafted or that they were picked in the second to last pick of the draft. Sometimes the draft is just so deep that they fall out. It happens.
And yeah, you look at especially those last couple of rounds where teams aren't really taking the best players. They're just taking guys that they think, well, this guy can do this one thing really well, and we need him to do this one thing to make our roster, and we're going to draft him, and that's all he's going to do. And then you get guys like Bartu and Warlow that fall through the cracks because, for whatever reason, the team didn't think that they could do the one thing they wanted them to do, as well as this other guy that they wound up drafting in the 5th, 6th round and is out of the league in 3 years because things change because coaches get fired and the new coach wants him to do something else. That's,
One thing I'll say is when a guy is a fan favorite for a team, it speaks a lot to me. And one thing that really got me to kind of start looking into Paul Warlow was a lot of his fans, a lot of his family, a lot of his friends, like maybe they were friends and family that were just like, oh, you got a really good football player. But I don't think so. There were a bunch of people that were saying, oh my God, this guy's good. You've got to watch tape. You're going to believe that he's awesome. I was like, okay, cool. So I went and I watched and I was like, he's really good. And Zach Kerr stood out on that tape too. Zach Kerr looked awesome on that tape with Paul Warlow.
Did Kerr get drafted?
Kerr didn't get drafted.
Okay.
But he signed with Indianapolis where he's probably going to start as a rookie.
That's possible, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. That's a good-ass nose tackle. You put him in there, you rotate him with Josh Chapman, you got 2 big fat guys who just want to attack that gap every play, you're going to have some happy Indianapolis linebackers. But no, I mean, Paul Warlow stood out. But I probably wouldn't have looked too far into his tape had I, A, not heard about him before. because I had no idea who he was when the Falcons signed him, and B, had I not had the ridiculous reaction of people going, "Oh my God, you guys signed him, he's good," I would have never expected to see that. But it's all the same thing with Tyler Starr. When a fan base loves a player, he's either the hardest working guy on the field or he's the best player that they have. And sometimes it's both.
I would go out on a limb and probably say Tyler Starr was the best player on South Dakota's team. Just guess.
He probably was.
Yeah.
But when you watch him play, trust me, you said Shenbo's motor was a big thing that kind of turned you on with him. Like, he may not be a great football player, but he does have the best motor you've seen.
Yeah.
I think Starr's motor is better.
I think Starr has a really good motor as well. Yeah.
Like, when I say Patrick Kearney motor, that's what I see in Starr. Again, relentless. Absolutely relentless. So, and I'm a little picky, but
No, it's interesting because Pat Schiller was my guy, and when I watched him at Northern Illinois, he didn't really pop to me at Northern Illinois. He was like, yeah, he can play in the league, but one of the things, and this is one of the things where I get a lot of people say, oh, why are you judging guys before they play the game? I'm not judging guys. I'm judging guys based on the college team. What they are in college, what I think they project to the NFL is one thing. What they actually are in the NFL, I don't know. And so when Schiller came to camp that year, when the Falcons had a bunch of more talented, more athletic linebackers. We had the guy from Alabama, I can't remember his name, Jarrell Harris or something like that. And people were talking about that guy, and it was like, well, when you actually watch the games, Schiller's the best backup linebacker we had in those preseason games. He was always in position. He wasn't blowing assignments in coverage, unlike Spencer Atkins, unlike Robert James, and that type of stuff. And for whatever reason, that didn't translate last summer. Probably didn't help that Warlow and Bartu stood out, so he kind of got pushed to the wayside. But it's one of those things where how a guy is, or how I think a guy is in college, may not be what he is in the pro. I didn't have the super high opinion of Schiller at NIU. Played well his first preseason in the NFL. Hasn't really been able to stick around. But some of these guys, and like again, I'm not the world's biggest Star fan, but he could come in and light it up this preseason, and then I'll become his fan. I judge guys by what they do in the NFL, and but until the meantime, I'm gonna give my opinions on what they did in college.
Well, when a guy looks good in college and is productive in college, and then has the ridiculous physical talents, but has ugly technique, it says that this is a moldable block of clay that is willing to work hard. Like, that's what I see. Tyler Starr is, let's build a defensive end that we can mold and throw him out there. And it's not like he wasn't productive. He was productive in college.
Yeah.
He averaged about 10 sacks a year. So it's not like he was awful and then, no, I'm saying, oh, he's got all this potential. No, he's produced.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this guy's just, a nothing player. I'm saying he's got a lot of potential, and he's shown some of it. He's shown flashes, and he can show even more flashes. Got another question from somebody.
Okay.
How difficult/realistic is it for Nix to convert to fullback? Roosevelt Nix from Kent State. Does he have any shot of making the roster?
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce Miller did it and wound up going to the Pro Bowl his second season. As a fullback.
Being an NFL fullback is not as if it's like takes unique abilities. You just kind of have to hit the guy that's in front of you. That's basically what it is. Hit the right guy. That's all it takes. That's why one of the reasons why I don't think you need to draft him, because you can just find somebody that can hit somebody.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's an offensive linebacker. That's all it is. You find the hole, you hit the guy in the hole, and you push him out the way. Only difference between linebacker and fullback is instead of trying to shed a fullback and hit somebody, your only real goal is to, instead of shedding a linebacker or shedding a fullback and hitting the running back, your only real goal is to go and hit a linebacker and knock him out of the play.
Mm-hmm.
So you can lower your shoulder into that linebacker and knock him over if you really want to. I'd even say to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think with Nix, the fact, is he physical enough to be a fullback? Yes. The big question is going to be, can he basically locate the right guy to block on a given play? That's basically it. And one of the reasons why, most fullbacks are former slow running backs is because when you're a running back, you develop that vision to basically either find daylight or find the defender that's in the hole. And the difference between being a running back and a fullback is the running back is supposed to avoid the guy in the hole. The fullback is supposed to take him out. And so, can Nix do that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But other guys have done it. Corey McIntyre, Bruce Miller, and the guys. There's a lot of former defensive ends. Eric Lorg, who played for the Bucks for the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of former linebackers. It's not like it's a skill that doesn't translate. I mean, it's a very simple task. So could he do it? Yeah. Will he do it? We'll see.
I think he'll end up winning the job. He's the strongest of the three fullbacks. He's the quickest of the three fullbacks. And he did line up at linebacker a lot. And linebacker is find the hole and bust through the hole. I mean, I think he'll do fine. I think he'll do just fine at that. I think his size, his speed, his strength. The biggest issue that rookie fullbacks have is functional strength. You got a guy who's been playing defensive end who made Alabama's life a nightmare that game. Like, those linemen, he just absolutely pissed all of them off. Guys like Barrett Jones, guys like Cyrus Kwanjo, guys who went in the top 2 rounds, he was just frustrating because they couldn't get their hands on him in a proper way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be a fun fullback to have on the roster. He may be practice squatted this year and then starting next year, just because why pay a fullback if you don't have to? But I really don't see him losing to Patrick DeMarco, except for the fact that DeMarco has a year experience in the offense. That's really the only thing.
They up Luke Kuechly last year, so that's a plus in his game. If nothing else, he can put that on his highlight tape and show that to his grandkids. Hey kids, I laid out Luke Kuechly, this Pro Bowl, possibly Hall of Fame linebacker. See this clip? I just blasted him in the mouth, and he didn't know what hit him.
And making almost $500,000 doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. That's what these guys make. Even as rookies. So, okay.
Yeah, and I don't think the Falcons are going to really use a fullback that much this year. I think they're going to be a single back, 2 tight end. They're going to be basically either 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. That's probably what they're going to be in probably 70 to 80% of the time. And, the rest of the time they can just go with 2 tight ends. You take a guy like Jacob Peterson, the undrafted rookie out of Wisconsin. You played H-back at Wisconsin. You could easily incorporate an H-back that kind of lines up in the backfield. Sometimes he'll line up behind the tackle. Sometimes he'll line up beside the tight end. Sometimes he'll drop into the backfield and play fullback. He can do that. He's proven that at Wisconsin. He can actually catch. So, it's an asset, and really the Falcons can basically scheme around not having a fullback. So even if DeMarco stinks and Nix doesn't translate and Maurice Hagans doesn't, the reality is you can pick up any old fullback off the street. You saw last summer Michael Robinson was a free agent. John Connor was a free agent. It's really a position that's it's a no hassle. You can plug and play with pretty much anybody, so it's not a big deal what happens. And so,
And the thing is, DeMarco doesn't really stink as a fullback. So I'm not saying that he's bad. He actually ranked 10th by Pro Football Focus out of all fullbacks in the NFL.
he had a pretty good year.
He had a pretty good year. Yeah, he's a top 10 fullback. But that's about, I mean, woohoo. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I think Nix can be a top 5 fullback again. Woohoo. He's going to play 200-something snaps and going to knock like 10 guys on their butt, and boom, that's a top 10 fullback. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Marcel Reese, that kind of guy, any day of the week than
Yep.
I like Marcel Reese. I think he gets shafted by being in Oakland and not getting any touches.
I agree. Marcel Reese is my guy, man. He's a beast, but he plays in Oakland, as you say. No one knows about him.
Well, the thing is, Oakland put him as a starting running back one day. He had like 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then had a catch for 60 yards and a touchdown. It's like, are you kidding me?
Look, man, this is one of the reasons why I'm a Darren McFadden hater, because guess what? That year that Reese started 2 or 3 games at running back, he was better at running back than Darren McFadden was. And so it's McFadden's Reese didn't play running back in college. He was a wide receiver at Washington. And the fact that he's outproducing this top 10 pick as a running back in the NFL tells me that the top 10 pick probably isn't as good as people say he is.
And the thing that absolutely pisses me off, he signed for 3 years with the Raiders still. Because he didn't realize that another team would start him at running back. Could you imagine Marcel Reese in Atlanta actually getting a couple touches? He might actually look like, I don't know, 2008 Michael Turner with receiving ability.
Yeah, maybe.
How great would that be? Imagine Michael Turner if he could catch.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't even imagine that because Michael Turner can't catch.
Yeah, but I mean, just think like early Steven Jackson.
Yeah, that is what you mean.
Like, kind of, sort of, with a little bit more explosion because he's a little bit faster. Like,
it's amazing to me. Just going on a brief Michael Turner tangent, it's amazing to me that Michael Turner could have as much success in the NFL without having the ability to catch a football. At some point you would have thought that would have weeded him out of the league, but that kind of tells you how good a running back he was, because basically they didn't care that he couldn't catch at all.
yeah, pretty much. I think either one of us could catch the ball better than he could.
Oh, I know I can catch the ball better than Michael Turner.
Because when it was thrown his way, he was just like, I got it.
I know I can catch the ball better than Michael Turner.
Oh, man. This is bad. And no, it's not a good thing if we can catch better than you.
Yeah. I'm some schlub in a chair. Look at my sloppy ass bedroom. The fact that if I can outproduce you in the NFL, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, in any aspect. I mean, I guarantee you I could probably strike out better than Dan Uggla, but it doesn't mean I should be playing in Major League Baseball, right?
Yeah.
No. No. Anyway, that's all we're going to be doing for this week.
Yeah.
Only real question we have at this point is who is going to step up at running back to where we don't have to see Josh Vaughn play for the Falcons this year?
I'm looking forward to that Josh Vaughn conversation we'll have next week.
And that's not a rip on. Well, no, it is. Anyway, for Aaron, on Falcons,
one player at each position group every week. That's what we're gonna do.
We're gonna rip one guy. Well, it was Dom Davis this week.
Yeah, it was Dom Davis this week. Next week it's Josh Vaughn. 2 guesses who I'm going to rip on at wide receiver. Harry Douglas. There you
I didn't even need to make one guess for that. Anyone who's been watching or listening to the show knows Harry Douglas is not your favorite person. All right, so signing off. You can find Aaron at FalcFans. You can find me at Scott Karasik. Or you can find the show at Falcons PFC. Everyone have a good night.